Welcome to the Ocean Race Show. This is where we're going to be following all the drama from leg 3, as well as finding out who's fast, why they're slow, and trying to decipher all those tactical moves from the fleet. There's only been 2 days of racing and already there's so much to talk about. Leg 3 is all about the Southern Ocean. Downwind, heavy winds, big seas, one endless running leg. And on that leg, you're going to have to do multiple jibes. How on earth do our sailors manage to pull off those maneuvers? Well, to help us understand, I'm going to wind the clock back and take a look at a couple of things that have happened over the last couple of days to try and give us an idea as to what might be happening in the future. Stay with me. First, the leg start. The combination of wind strength and tight corners for the harbour section of the course meant that the risk of breakages was high straight from the off. It was flat water, but IMOCAs will always find a way to make the ride uncomfortable. While Paul Mayer on biotherm did his best to see where to go, and the experienced OVR bravely ventured just outside the cockpit to get the shot, the boat accelerated faster than the crew could control, and it wildly reared out of the water before crashing back down. The TV cameraman inside the boat managed to capture the moment, but didn't manage to hold on. So, one camera kit down and an important lesson about what will happen to any IMOCA if it goes too fast. But I also want to draw your attention to something that happened just after. Biotherm then jibed at a corner of the inshore section of the course and seemed to be slow to pull in their sails and get back up to full power. This was because they had ripped off their main sheet Vang system from the deck. The boom swung over with so much power, it ripped through the strop and took out the metal track. Biotherm wasn't the only boat to suffer breakages. 11th Hour Racing Team broke part of their top batten, and there was plenty of close calls around the racetrack as Table Bay sheltered some areas of the course and the wind ripped through the rest. Going from 5 knots of wind speed into 30 is not easy on any boat. And on our IMOCAs, this was just another challenge, on top of rounding more corners, doing more manoeuvres than they would do in a week of offshore racing. But this is how our offshore legs begin. A display in front of the spectators and a test for the best sailors in the world. So Biotherm had to return to the dock, and it wasn't the only breakage that we saw in the early stages of leg 3. But the point that I want to make here is that 1, if you are going really fast, the chances are you're about to go wildly out of control. And 2, jibing in strong winds puts an awful lot of strain on the boat. So keep those 2 things in mind as we take a look at what happened next. So with Biotherm back in Cape Town for repairs, the rest of the fleet pushed south, attempting to find the best way round an area of light winds. Team Holson PRB was leading the group, but once everyone sailed into the soft breeze, the challenge was just finding any way to keep moving.
The wind is a bit lighter than expected. I think maybe we are in a current loop, and it's in the nose, so against us, and it decreases the wind. Well, we will go, I think. Yeah, yes, for sure.
So Team Holson PRB kept changing sails to try and keep the boat in front, and they did a good job. Well, they were still in the lead as everyone emerged from that light wind zone, with the entire fleet now pushing down towards the southeast, trying to find the best way to set up for the impending weather system. Everyone got into a line from top to tail. I want to go back and take a look at something that Kevin Escoffier said when the boats were parked up, because he was talking about the current and how that wasn't helping. Now, when those boats were stopped, there was actually wind. But the problem was that the wind was moving towards the boats and the current was pulling the boats away from the wind. And that meant that the wind could never reach the boats and really fill the sails and get those boats going. And this is a really important concept to understand. If the current had been going in the opposite direction, and actually the boats had been moved towards the wind and the wind was blowing together, then they'd come together and you'd feel more wind. It would kind of accelerate everything. This is really crucial, and I actually think this is going to be something on a much larger scale that's going to be important to understand about how they're going to be jibing in the Southern Ocean. If we had the wind behind us, and maybe the current was moving us away from the wind, but let's be honest, the wind in the Southern Ocean is what? 30, 40, 50 knots maybe. No current's going to be moving us that fast. But what about our boats? What if our boat was sailing away from the wind at the sort of speeds that we see IMOCAs do, 20, 25, 30, 35 knots? At that point, you're going to get much less wind in the sails. And this could be a trick with jibing. We have seen this in previous editions of the ocean race, going all the way back to the big heavy boats, as well as the VO70s and the 65s as well. What you'd do is you'd get all the crew ready for the jibe, you'd get on the best wave that you could see, and then you would surf as fast as possible. And when you were at that peak speed, that was the right time to turn the wheel, and the boom would come over comparatively softly. Certainly better than what it would have done had you not done that, a big acceleration in speed. But we've seen in the opening stages of leg 3, as well as the previous 2 legs, what can happen on an IMOCA if you get this boat going at full speed. They become ungainly. They're almost too difficult to manage. You need to be so quick in your reactions to keep the boat from just flying off the handle and leaping into the air. So for our sailors, what they're going to do in the Southern Ocean on this long, week after week downhill sleigh ride, they are going to have to find a way to jibe these boats, either full speed on the wave, on the foils, where the wind in their sails is less, but the risks are high, or slow everything right down. Wind the sails in tight, bring them over to the other side, and spend a long time easing the boat onto the new jibe. So with so much at stake performing one of these jibes, the question was, when were people going to do the turns? Team Malizia were first, breaking off towards the east. Then it was first place Team Wholesome PRB and GUYOT Environment Team Europe. For 11th Hour Racing Team and Biotherm, it was all about how long they were going to hold on.
Not to be irresponsible, but I mean, everybody else is going that way. It's getting too windy. Yeah. It's not going to get windy yet. Yeah. I'm 70-30 jive. Yeah. I think if Paul wants to go down there, he's the man. Yeah. Like, just stay with the group, grind it out, don't break the boat. Yeah. Live to fight another day.
Any jibe in this part of the world means all hands on deck. So Charlie Enright went to wake a sleeping Jack Boutel before everyone preps the boat for the turn, with Justine Matru dressed in full waterproof gear, ready to venture outside in an emergency.
There we go.
For this jibe, 11th Hour Racing Team decided to slow the boat right down, wind the main right in, and try to keep control of it as the boat turns through the jibe as slowly as possible. Once they've jibed, they can release the boat back to full speed and settle in for a wild ride.
I hate to say it, ladies and gentlemen, this might be a little bit more down the waves. We're actually not trying to go as fast as humanly possible right now. We're trying to find a good average speed where we don't load the boat up too much, we don't nosedive too much and have big crashes. That's sort of easier said than done. So it's a little bit of trial and error at the moment with a few things, and yeah, for sure now it's into, you know, speed versus, you know, preserving the boat for sure. There's a long way to go, and it's already a few little niggles showing up, so yeah. Try and keep everything in one piece.
Keeping the boats working will be a big factor, so it's not too surprising to see Paul Mayer's Biotherm follow 11th Hour Racing Team and the others jibing back northeast once they hit their comfort limits. Team Malizia in the north should have been able to feel a little bit safer compared with those further south, but not safe enough. Team Malizia had a major emergency at sunset. The headsail came out of its lock at the top of the mast and fell into the water, wrapping around the foils and keel, filling with water and refusing to be pulled back on deck.
I think it's through the whole sail. We just can't see it at the moment. And for me, there's no way it's just pierced.
It's also dark in a second, so let's rather get rid of it.
Yeah.
I feel.
The quickest it would be to just do it now and quickly. Yeah, oh, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the main worry is to get rid of the sail.
Just get it off, yeah. Okay.
The underwater cameras confirmed how wrapped the sail was, and there was nothing else to do but cut into the sail more to free it. Once it was off the foil, they could sail backwards and pull it off the keel before hauling the wet, heavy, and now useless downwind sail back on board, with very little energy left to try and work out how the sail broke free.
Why is it up and off?
Bouncing in a way.
Yeah.
And maybe so the
Maybe because we have the halyard cleated.
yeah, that is too tight.
Maybe we shouldn't have it cleated.
Not so much, just for unfurling, and then you cleat it with a little slack. I don't
Okay.
Once they could get back underway, they were relieved to see that they were still in a strong position amongst the fleet. As everyone headed east, Biotherm was in 5th place with 11th Hour Racing Team ahead in 4th and Team Milizia in 3rd. Out in the lead, Team Wholesome PRB. But what about 2nd place? Well, GUYOT Environment Team Europe have turned for home and suspended racing. So what do we know about the situation? Well, all the crew on board GUYOT Environment Team Europe are safe. The problem is a panel on the bow on the port side. That panel has been under incredible strain with slamming into the seas, and it's started to flex. And the fibres that are woven next to each other have been coming apart and delaminating. And with that, the panel gets weaker. And it seems like GUYOT Environment Team Europe have spotted it in good time and have decided to suspend racing, not retire, and head back to Cape Town to work out what their next move is. So why suspend? Why not retire? I mean, it sounds pretty serious. Well, to help us understand, a globe is actually the way to go rather than a computer screen. So I've swiped this one out of the boss's office upstairs because he's still on his way back from Cape Town. But he's here. This is where the leg started from Cape Town, and our boats have got to sail right the way round the bottom of the world before coming back to the same ocean and finishing in Itajaí, Brazil. For GUYOT Environment Team Europe, going into Cape Town to then work out what the problem is means that if they find out that the problem is fixable, they can just sail back down, rejoin the race from where they suspended and carry on going. And fingers crossed, they might even be able to catch up and score some good points. If they can't, and the problem needs more time to repair, then after those repairs, they can hitch over to the other side, meet the boats when they finish, rejoin the race, only missing this leg. It's a really good example of a skipper and crew making a tough decision in the heat of the moment when the chips are down. And to help us understand what it's like being that skipper with that responsibility, I spoke to ocean race veteran Bauer Becking about being there when the chips are down, when the heat is on, and trying to work out what the right move is.
You're joining a race to win it, and they might not have shown that up to now, but like you always believe in yourself and you believe in your team. So I think that is the first thing. You want to join again, and you want to make sure that you can do the entire race, because that's the biggest chance that you make points and have a bigger chance of overall winning. But I think the big picture is still like the safety of the crew. I think that is number one. It's not only your own crew members, but you're having as well responsibility to the families back home. And that is, of course, that is something I think as a skipper that a lot of people don't realize. But I think once you are in that situation, you just know once you're leaving the dock, most likely there's always things happening for a long leg. You see how emotional everybody is. So I think the responsibility to the families is huge as well. They will have lots of talks, and as well I think with the team, and of course with the sponsors. But it's not an easy period because you can just imagine how down they are, because they've been living for this the last couple of months. They had a dream, and this dream just all of a sudden came abrupt to an end.
Hopefully it's a dream that will be reignited when they get back ashore and they can assess the damage. But for the moment, for the 4 boats that are still out on the racetrack racing, I thought it'd be a good idea to take a look at the weather and see about what tactical decisions they're going to have to be made. Now, this is the race control tracker, and here are our boats, but don't be fooled by the breeze that I put over the top. This is actually the wind that they're going to be experiencing in 3 days' time. So our fleet are probably going to be a lot more around in this area here. But I think these ridges, fronts, and these areas of light winds are going to cut across the fleet, and actually they're going to leave some boats behind. Our leaders could potentially still be riding the big breeze and pushing hard east, with the boats behind, if they're not too careful, stuck in light wind areas or on the wrong side of a wind shift. Right now, over the next 24, certainly 48 hours, we're going to be seeing differences in how our boats line up for the weather, because the weather that they're going to be experiencing is going to be very different. And those boats behind are going to have to push really hard to try and hold on to the leaders. Now, while we've been making the show, GUYOT Environment Team Europe did manage to send in a video update as to what was going on board when they discovered the problems with their bow panel. We haven't really had a chance to play around with it too much, and well, why would we?
Fuck! Yeah, it's very strange on here.
I suddenly saw this box moving and I never saw it moving before.
Yeah.
About 5 minutes ago.
But for sure the sound is not good. Huh? No, the sound is not good.
Ben, I'm going to follow the J3, okay?
Yeah, okay.
Follow the J3.
Seb! Seb! Réveille-toi, on a un problème. We can continue like this. So the time is to come back in Cape Town and to prepare the shed to repair.
Yeah.
And we'll see.
And do we have to fix something now?
We just have to be very careful.
I will ask, but no. So the good news is we will be on port
Yeah.
to come back. But no, sorry.
Sorry, Ben.
No, sorry. Everybody.